Hayati. I'm head of Joshi Advocates. Thank you very much for joining us in this video. In the next 5 minutes, we'll see an adult dependent relative application. This is where a parent wants to come in the UK, for example, who's elderly and living outside the UK. And we'll see the documents, information that's required for the application, as well as fees. And finally, to tie it all in, I'll tell you a story so you can see what the requirements actually look like in real life, right? So let's run through the requirements. So first, the applicant who's an elderly parent, for example, or an adult child over 18, brother, sister, living outside the UK, and the sponsor is living in the UK. And the sponsor is British, settled, a refugee or humanitarian protection, or has limited leave to remain as an EA national under EU settlement scheme. So applicants outside the UK, for the purpose of this video, let's just say the applicant is a parent living outside the UK, and the sponsor is an adult daughter who wants to bring the parent to the UK, right? Now, so we know the applicant's outside the UK and the sponsor is in the UK, and say the sponsor is British. Now, we also have a requirement, which is that the sponsor is not going to recourse to public funds. So the sponsor must be in employment or self-employment and not relying on benefits, or is receiving particular benefits like PIP or DLA. Or also the sponsor has cash savings, so they've sold a house and there's money, and there is a paper trail as to selling the house paper and the money coming into the bank account paper. So the sponsor has to have money from an official source, evidenced by bank statements and other relevant documents to show money is available, and as a result will not recourse to public funds in order to maintain and accommodate the applicant coming and living in the UK. Now, finally, another requirement is the applicant living overseas has a medical condition which is age-related or has an illness or a disability, and there is a long-term personal care requirement that the applicant cannot perform daily tasks because of the age-related illnesses or disability. And finally, there is no treatment or care available for the medical conditions in the country where the applicant is living. Even if the sponsor, who's British living in England, is going to send her money overseas to the mother, and still the mother cannot have the treatment or the care that she requires in the country that she's living in, because the care or treatment is not available or accessible even with the funding, right? So that's the requirement. Now, home office fee, this is one of the most expensive applications that's out there. I'm just going to read the numbers so we're on the same page. £3,250, that's the home office application fee, plus immigration health surcharge, 1,860. There might be a biometric appointment in the country where the applicant is resident. So around 5.5 home office fee in total for the application. It does not include any lawyer's fees, just the home office fee. Right, now, I'll give you a story now, okay? So we had a case where there was a gentleman named, I don't know, let's say his name is John, right? So John was living outside the UK and he was 70 plus, right? And he had 3 British children living in the UK, all adult, British adult children living in the UK, 3 of them, right? British. He's outside the UK. He is living in Kenya, but he's a national of Somalia. So a national of Somalia living in Kenya, right? So he's not even a Kenyan national. So, and he's 70, living in a country that he's not a national of, and he has 3 British children and living in the UK. Now, he's alone because his wife passed away, so he's a widow, right? And he had stroke. He had a stroke twice. Twice he had a stroke, which meant that half of his body did not work, right? So the sponsors, adult children here, had a private carer to look after the father on a regular basis, and paid money, sent money from the sponsor to the applicant, saying, get the tablets, the treatment, right? But still, the care and the treatment is not available because the carer isn't always available, because the kind of care the applicant father requires given his medical condition, which is a stroke, is 24 hours, daytime, nighttime, right? Because half his body doesn't work. So even with the carer paid by the sponsors in the UK, the treatment and the care the applicant requires is not available. And even the money being sent from the sponsor to the applicant for tablets is being sent. But again, it's not enough because the care requirement remains, and it's not fulfilled because the carer is it's not regular. So Home Office refused the application. They said that the sponsor adult children here can go and travel in Kenya and look after their father. Now, here's where we said no, because they have their own lives. They're in employment with the NHS and schools, they're teachers, and they've got their own families with children. So it's not like they can always leave and then look after him and then come back. And the sponsors actually had, because they're British, they showed their passport saying, here are the visas that we had for Kenya. We can only stay there for 3 months. So we can't work during that time. So even if we were to go there, the money wouldn't be there. And anyway, it's only for 3 months because we can't work there and live there forever because we're British. And we've shown that we've traveled as much as possible given our commitments in the UK. So you see here, Home Office saying that the sponsor should travel there to look after the applicant. So the applicant would have to show the Home Office that I need to come in the UK to join my adult child who's a British sponsor, because they can't come and look after me now and then. And my condition is to such a degree that requires daily care, because I can't perform daily tasks. Even with money, even the care requirement is being, private carer is being paid for, but it's not, my care requirement is not being met. Right. Now here Home Office will say you may have other family members living where the applicant is living. Maybe the applicant has sisters who can, in another city, who can come and look after. But if there's no relative in the country where the applicant is living, a private care arrangement, Home Office also expects the sponsor to explore and say, why can't the applicant be cared for even with a private care arrangement, right? So we went to court once the Home Office refused the application. We won in court. But you see the level of documents are required. So I hope this has been helpful. As always, contact me, details below, subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much. Take care.